Welcome to the Confident Dollar Podcast, where we are seeking to bring confidence and organization to your financial life. Welcome to the Confident Dollar Podcast. My name is Lauren, and I am the host of the Confident Dollar Podcast, as well as the founder and financial advisor at Sailor Portfolios of Planning, a financial planning firm located in Orange County, California, but serving clients across the nation. I started this podcast last year just with the hopes of bringing more financial education to people and in a way that people can understand and digest, and really just wanting to bring more confidence to people's finances, because the financial world is something that is overwhelming. And a lot of times, if the more overwhelmed you feel, if you don't quite understand topics or the language behind it, the more likely you are to delay in pulling the trigger on investing or getting your finances in order. And I want to do my best to help people not do that. So we are been going through financial topics, one by one. We kind of just go through different things, whether it's just what the market's doing or different financial literacy topics to digest and break down for you. And today we are talking about Roths. Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, Roth conversions, backdoor Roths, and backdoor Roths. So I am sure, have heard of these. Specifically, I feel like what you're hearing about lately is mega backdoor Roths. And I want to be able to break this down and give you the information so you can fully understand what each of these are. And as you're listening, you might be like, okay, I have access to that, or I can do that, or I don't have access to that. That's not a tool I can use in my toolbox, but you will be able to hopefully understand what they are and figure out how you might make them, use them for your good and for your financial planning. So we're just going to start with the Roth IRA. I know I have a different podcast episode on what this is, but in order for us to kind of move forward with this podcast episode, I think it's important to make sure everybody understands what a Roth IRA is, just because that's the base of where everything goes from here. So you have an IRA. I guess let's go back one more. An IRA. What is an IRA? You have an individual retirement account, which means it's a way you can save for retirement on your own and not through an employer. So most people save the bulk of their retirement through their employer, through 401ks, 403bs. But individual retirement accounts, or IRAs, are ways you can open up retirement accounts for yourself on your own where you want to have it opened and save for retirement. Now, there are limits to how much you can save into IRAs, both traditional and Roth. And for 2024, that limit is $7,000. And if you're over 50, you can do another $1,000 catch up. So $8,000 total. But there are also income limits around Roth contributions for IRAs, for Roth IRAs specifically. There are income limits for deductibility on a traditional, but I'm not going to confuse you there because we're not talking about that today, but there are income limits there. But specifically today, we're talking about Roth IRAs. So what makes a Roth IRA different than a traditional IRA is the way the contributions are taxed. So a traditional IRA, you contribute to the IRA, and the amount you contribute to that IRA for that year gets to be taken off your income for that year. So you get that deduction off your income and you don't have to pay taxes on that money. Now, a Roth, you leave the money on your income essentially, and you are contributing with after-tax dollars, meaning you don't get that deduction on your income or for your taxes in the year you contribute. So if you do the full max of $7,000 for 2024, you still are paying that income on that $7,000, even though you put it into a retirement account and you didn't have it in your pocket. The benefit over time is that as it grows and as you invest, when you get to retirement and you go to take that money out, assuming you've met all the rules of a Roth IRA, like a 5-year rule and all of those, then you can pull that money out and any money you've earned income tax free. So that is a huge benefit especially if you are young and you have a long time until retirement, because even if you put $7,000 into a Roth IRA, starting at, let's say, 30 to the age 65, most of what you have at 65 is going to be the growth you've actually incurred during that time, unless the actual money you put in. But all of that money in growth will also be tax-free. You don't have to pay income tax on it. So that is the huge benefit of doing Roth contributions over traditional when you are able. Now, like I said, Roth IRAs have income limits in which you are not able to directly contribute to a Roth IRA if you make too much money. For 2024, if you are married and filing jointly, the phase out is $230,000 to $240,000. So if you make more than $240,000, you are not able to contribute to a Roth. If you are in that range, there's a formula of how much you can contribute. If you make under $230,000, you can do the full amount. And for single filers, it's $146,000 to $161,000. So same thing. If you make over $161,000, you can not contribute at all. If you're within that range, you can do a certain amount depending on where in that range you are. And again, if you're under $146,000, you can do the full amount. And this is based off your modified adjusted gross income. So you're going to need to know that number. But again, if you make too much money, then you're phased out of a Roth and you can no longer contribute to it, which gets to be a little bit tricky if you want to still have Roth savings, to have diversified taxes now and diversified taxes in retirement, because both of those are important to make sure you're diversifying your taxes specifically for retirement. The other benefit of a Roth in retirement versus a traditional, and where it makes the biggest impact, I feel like when I show this to clients in financial planning, is Roths do not have something called an RMD, or required minimum distribution, that any traditional retirement savings is going to have. So if you have traditional retirement savings and you reach the age of, if you're young right now, it's set to 75. If you reach the age of 75, you have to start taking money out of that account. The government's like, hey, we want to tax this money. We haven't taxed it yet. There's a certain amount you have to pull out every year, even if you don't need that money. Roths do not have that. So you don't have any formula of having to take any amount out. So if you need, you take out what you need, and the rest you can leave in there and continue to let grow, rather than having to take it out, pay taxes, and then maybe reinvest what you have that you haven't used. So that makes a really big difference, and I think is a really big benefit of the Roth. But maybe you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I can't contribute directly to a Roth IRA. I make too much money. Well, that's where all these other options start coming into play. First, specifically, I want to talk about Roth 401ks, because I am seeing these more and more in plans. Employers are starting to add them to plans. And basically, and it's not specific to 401ks, could be 403bs too, but it's adding Roth contribution capabilities within your employer plan, which is a really big benefit because, one, there are much higher annual limits that you can contribute into an employer plan. So for 2024, you can contribute $23,000. And if you're over 50, you can do another $7,500 into an employer plan. That's a 401k, 403b, 457 deferral, something like that. If you have Roth contribution options in your 401k, you can do that full amount of $23,000 as Roth contributions in a 401k if you have that within your plan, which is huge. That's way more than $7,000 a year and would really help you build more Roth savings for retirement if you have that option. The other big thing for Roth 401ks is that there are no income limits currently to contribute Roth contributions in a 401k or 403b, which means you won't make too much money. There's no income limit. So even if you make more than the phase out I told you for the Roth IRA, you can still contribute Roth 401k contributions, which is huge and is a super good way for high earners to be able to save Roth contributions for retirement. So, okay, maybe that you have that option. Perfect. I would recommend utilizing it. If you don't have that option, then you got to look at some other options, which is what we have to talk about next. So a backdoor Roth. A backdoor Roth is if you, again, don't have maybe 401k options, Roth contributions there, you'd make too much money to contribute directly to a Roth IRA, then you can utilize a backdoor Roth. And what this strategy is contributing that $7,000. So going back to IRA contribution limits, if you contribute $7,000 into a non-deductible IRA, meaning you are not taking a deduction. And this is what happens when you make too much money to contribute to a traditional IRA. You have to do non-deductible contributions. So you're making a non-deductible IRA contribution, And then you are immediately converting that contribution into a Roth. So you're doing a Roth conversion. Now, this has to all happen simultaneously because you don't want to, or I guess one right after the other, you don't want to contribute to a non-deductible IRA throughout the year, invest that money, and then do a Roth conversion. It's going to be a lot more complicated as far as the amount you have to convert with how the investments have done, if you have gains and losses and all that. So you're contributing to the non-deductible IRA. You're not investing it yet. Then you're doing a immediate conversion into a Roth. And then from there, you can go ahead and invest that money. Now, I would probably recommend working with a professional on this, a tax advisor and a financial advisor as well, just because it is complicated and it can get very complicated, especially tax-wise, if you also have other traditional IRA savings investments. That can make it a lot more complicated when it comes to taxes. But that is, in a nutshell, how a backdoor Roth would work. Again, contribution into a non-deductible IRA and then a conversion into a Roth. Okay? Am I losing you yet? This is a lot of information. Next, we're going to just talk about just straight Roth conversions. What is that? Well, I essentially kind of just explained it. Instead, for a Roth conversion, maybe you already have a bunch of traditional IRA savings. You've rolled over 401ks. You have a rollover IRA, which would just be a traditional IRA that you've rolled over a bunch of 401ks into, and you've accumulated a good amount of money in there. But you make too much money for a Roth. You don't have Roth contribution options in your 401k. You might want to look into Roth conversions, and this would just be taking a certain amount of that traditional IRA every year and converting it into a Roth. So when that happens, it gets added back to your income in the year that you do the conversion. So whatever conversion amount you do would get added back into your income for that year. And then it can get put into the Roth account. So again, you want to consult a tax person on this. You want to maybe make sure you're staying within your tax bucket. Maybe you want to fill up a bucket. Maybe you want to just deplete that over time. But if you want to work with a tax person or a financial planner on this, then you would be able to kind of look at how much you should convert every year, what amount would make sense, how that would play out in the long run as far as taxes now versus taxes later, growth that you would have, how old you are and how long you have for that conversion to go back into a Roth and make money in there instead of in the traditional. So there's a lot of different things to look at here as far as making sure this makes sense for you. But that is what a Roth conversion is. It's taking a traditional amount, it's converting it into a Roth, and it's adding back that income in the year you do that conversion. Okay? The last one, and probably what's going to feel like the most complicated, is a mega backdoor Roth. So what is that? Maybe you've heard someone on TikTok talking about this. What is a mega backdoor Roth, and is this something you should use? Okay, so we explained the backdoor Roth, which was doing that within a IRA, or IRA, individual retirement account. Okay, the mega backdoor Roth is using the same strategy, but within an employer plan. So within your 401k or 403b. It is basically maxing out as much as you can into a 401k and then converting that into Roth contribution. So in order for this to work, your employer plan has to have a few options that would make this possible. So one, you need to see if your employer plan, before I explain it, you would need to see if your employer plan does after-tax contributions. So like we explained earlier, a 401k or 403b, you can do $23,000 of contributions into that plan. And that's the amount. You could do that. If you have Roth contributions, you could do all that Roth, you could do all that pre-tax and take the deduction, but that's the limit. Well, some 401ks offer after-tax contributions, meaning you can contribute more than that into your 401k, but it has to be after tax. It's kind of like how that non-deductible IRA is going to work. It is like a Roth in that you don't get the tax deduction, but it's not like a Roth in that if you leave it after tax, you actually do have to pay you have to pay taxes on the growth that occurred between now and when you take it out. Okay, so you've already paid taxes on the contribution amount, but you'd have to pay taxes on the growth. So that's how it's different than a Roth. And not all 401ks or 403bs offer after-tax contributions. So again, you're going to have to check and see if this is an option. That's going to be the first step in seeing if this is an option. So what you could do is do, like I said, you do your 23,000 into as Roth if you have that option. And then if you have after tax contributions, you would contribute above and beyond that number to the limit of, for 2024, it's $69,000 total that you can put into a 401k if you have after tax contribution options. But of that 69,000 total, that's going to include what you put in, obviously for that first 23,000. So if you're maxing that out, it's going to be 23,000 plus any match your employer has. So if your employer has a match, you'd have to add that to the 23,000. Let's say that was $10,000 that they had. So total's gone into the account was $33,000. So you would only have $36,000 extra that you could contribute with after-tax contributions. The next thing you would need to see in order to make this work is if your plan permits in-plan Roth conversions or in-service withdrawals of after-tax contributions, okay? So let me explain those really quick, and then I'll explain again, like I said, how this all works, because I know this one is a little bit harder to wrap your mind around. But if your plan offers in-plan Roth conversions, that would mean how this could work is, again, you've done $23,000 of Roth contributions because you have that option. You have a $10,000 total match that's gone into here, so that's $33,000. You have $36,000 that you can do extra into your 401k with after-tax contributions. Then, just like we did with the Backdoor IRA, you would do an immediate in-plan Roth conversion to convert those after-tax contributions into Roth contributions. So again, they would be added back to your income. That would be your income. It would be included in your income for that year, and you would do that immediate Roth conversion. If your employer doesn't have an in-plan Roth conversion option, they might have an in-service withdrawal option of after-tax contributions, meaning you can't take the other part that you contributed, that first $23,000. But any after-tax contributions, they give you that option. While you're still in service, you can pull that money out. And then you could do, if that was an option, you could do those after-tax contributions of up to $36,000 in this scenario. And then you're doing an in-service withdrawal conversion into a Roth IRA. Okay. Again, these are probably strategies that you want to make sure you are talking about with your tax person or especially a professional, a licensed advisor and financial planner, to make sure that you are utilizing this correctly, that you are making sure you're thinking through all the tax implications of these strategies and you are doing it right, because it is slightly complicated. Okay, so a mega backdoor Roth just means if your 401k allows after-tax contributions, you have a ton of money that you could put into Roth conversion and do that backdoor Roth situation within the 401k. So mega backdoor Roths are within employer plans. Backdoor Roths are just within your individual retirement accounts. Mega backdoor Roths, which is why they're mega, you can do a lot more because of the high amount of money that you can use in after-tax contributions if your employer plan allows that. So in this episode, I've either explained things that you kind of understand, or you're even 1,000 times more confused of all these options. But for most people, there is a way to do Roth contributions within one of these options, even if some you don't have, access to, or you make too much money to do. So you basically just need to sit down and kind of go through one. Okay, can I contribute to a Roth IRA? Then yes, you probably want to do that. Do you have Roth 401k? Do you have Roth options in your 401k or your 403b? Okay. Does that make sense to use? If you don't have any of those options, does it make sense to do a backdoor Roth? Or do you already have a traditional IRA and that's going to be kind of more complicated? And if that's the case, then maybe you should do Roth conversion, or do you have mega backdoor Roth options? But regardless, there are a lot of ways to get money into Roth savings for you, for your future, for your retirement. And so there really is probably not a reason that you don't have access to at least one of these options and making sure you are utilizing them, because again, it's really important to have that tax diversification in retirement and not have all traditional savings. Anytime I put a plan together, and everybody and that person might be in more traditional and not have any Roth. We're figuring out how we're getting stuff into Roth because you need to have that diversification in retirement. You don't want all traditional. So if that's something you are interested in hearing more about, please reach out. I can answer any question that you have. Happy to do that. And hopefully this made somewhat sense as we walk through how maybe to utilize one of these within your retirement saving strategy to make sure you're diversifying both now and in retirement. So hope you all have a great day, and we will see you at the next episode. Lauren Gage is a registered representative with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax and legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal.